Welcome. I'm Martha Wheelock, Board President of the National Women's History Alliance, and I'm honored to welcome you to this time-honored prelude to Women's History Month. Our 2026 Women's History Month theme, Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, asks us to see sustainability not only as environmental care, but as economic justice, community resilience, and responsibility to future generations. From protecting land and wildlife to building fair economies and civic power, women have always designed the blueprints for lasting change. Sustainability has been women's work, quietly, persistently, powerfully, for centuries. At the heart of sustainability is Mother Nature, not a myth, but a moral metaphor. She gives life, sets limits, demands respect. To harm her is to harm those who come after us. Calling nature mother reminds us that care, restraint, and responsibility are not optional, they're ethical imperatives, deeply aligned with women's long history as stewards of food, water, healing, and seed saving. We hope this short gathering will entice you to discover some of the brave, outstanding, and meaningful work women have done and are doing to sustain our planet and our people, and that you too will find even small ways that you can follow in their footsteps as a sustainer in your daily life. Sustainability is a practice, what we feel on a daily basis and work on when we are conscious of its wider significance and implications. For historical and contemporary inspiration, you will later hear from Kara, one of the young creators of our 2026 calendar, honoring a wide range of women who lead sustainability in various fields. But first, we begin with a voice from the 19th century that helped generations of women discover their inner strength, moral courage, and a reverence for the natural world. Louisa May Alcott, author of Little Women. Through her letters and journals, our presenter, Deborah Ann Miller, reveals Alcott's profound relationship with nature, how it shaped her spirit, her independence, and her commitment to equality. Deborah Ann Miller, an accomplished actress for over 40 years, has spent decades bringing women's voices to life through her company, Historical Women of Letters. Today, she performs for us as Louisa May Alcott in an excerpt from her play, Noble Discontent, sharing Alcott's love of nature, her devotion to family, and her unwavering belief in equality. Welcome, Deborah Ann Miller.
I have been for a walk. I have a letter and a parcel to send. But the day was so clear and bright that I satisfied myself with a long ramble through town. Things worry me sometimes, but I just catch up a broom and sweep or wash hard or walk or go at something with all my might, and I usually find by the time I am finished that the worry is gone, or I've courage enough to bear it without grumbling. Active exercise was my delight. From the time when, at 6 years of age, I would drive my hoop around the common without stopping, to the day when I walked from Concord to Boston, 20 miles, in 5 hours, and went to a party in the evening. I must have been a deer or a horse in some previous life, for it has always been such a joy to me to run. My wise mother, anxious to give me a strong body to support my lively brain, turned me loose in the country to run wild and learn from nature what no books can teach, and to be led as those who truly love her never fail to be, through nature unto nature's God. I went for a run over the hills just at dawn one morning when the dew was off the grass. The The sun was not yet visible over the hills, but the sky was ready for his coming with the soft flush that dawn gives only to her royal lover. The birds were chanting matins as though all the jubilance of their short lives must be poured out at once. The flowers stirred and brightened like children after sleep. A balmy wind whispered from the wood, carrying the aroma of pines, the cold breath of dark nooks, and the brightness that one only feels in their soul. This moss was like velvet under my feet. And as I ran under the arches of yellow and red leaves, I sang for joy. My heart was so bright and the world so beautiful. I stopped at the edge of the walk and looked as the sun shone over the wide meadow. A very strange and solemn feeling came over me as I stood there. No sound but the rustling of the pines, no one near me, and the sun so glorious, as if for me alone. It seemed as if I felt God as I never had before, and I prayed in my heart that I might always keep that happy sense of nearness in my life, and I have. For I sincerely think that little girl got religion that day when dear Mother Nature led her to God. Those conquered days are the happiest of my life. Until one gloomy November day when we decided to go to Boston to try our fate again after years in the wilderness. During those early years in Boston, I don't seem to have thought much. The bustle and dirt and change seemed to drive all lovely images and restful feelings away. I see now what nature did for me. In my lovely years when I could run in the wind and was there with my loneliness and my thoughts. And though my thoughts were silly, I honestly believe that they kept me happy and good. And my romantic tendencies, as people describe that love of solitude and the out of doors, taught me much. Walks in the common when we were in the city, and long tramps over hill and dale when we lived in the country were part of our education. My father was a teacher and philosopher. My mother is frail now, and our poor little home, wherever it was, be it Germantown, Boston, Concord, or any one of 30-odd hovels, garrets, or basement flats, was filled with love and happiness. It was a shelter for lost girls, abused wives, friendless children, and weak or wicked men. Mother and father had no money to give them, but gave them time and patience and help, and if blessings could make them rich, they would be millionaires. I was very young when I realized we were poor. Poor as rats, as my mother would say. Always preferring action to discussion. I went for a brisk run over my hill one afternoon and then settled in for a good think in my favorite retreat. It was an old cart wheel, half hidden in grass under the locusts, where I used to sit and struggle with my sums, usually forgetting them and writing verses and fairy tales on my slate instead. Those days were so lovely, and as I perched on the hub, I looked at my prospects, which seemed rather gloomy, with the bare trees, sere grass, leaden skies, and frosty air. But the hopeful heart of 15 beat strongly and warmly under that old red shawl. And I raised my fist and shook it at fate and said, I'll do something by and by. I don't care what. Teach, sew, act, write, anything to help the family. I did all those things and more. I heartily support a woman's right to any branch of labor for which she proves her fitness. Work is such a beautiful and helpful thing, and independence so delightful. I wonder that there are any lazy people in the world. I hope you preach this doctrine, not in the rampant women's rights fashion, but by showing the world what women can do, even in skillfully and cheerfully attending to the little things that have such an impact on home life and through it on the world outside. Food, fire, and shelter is not all a woman needs. And the noble discontent that asks for more should not be condemned, but helped if possible. My parcel. It is an article for the New York Ledger, and as it has already been paid for, I must get it to the post office today. It was cold and snowed last night as I went out to buy a squash pie for my lonely supper. I felt tired and cross as I trudged home in the twilight. My pie turned a somersault. A boy laughed. So did I, and felt better. On my doorstep, I found a gentleman who asked if Miss Alcott lived there. I took him up my winding stair, and he proved to be a delightful fly, for he handed me a letter out of which fell $100 bill. With this bait, Mr. Bonner of the New York Ledger hoped to lure me to write an article, a single column of advice to young women. If he had asked for a Greek oration, I would have said yes. Thriftily taking advantage of the enthusiastic moment, I planned my article while I ate my dilapidated pie, and then proceeded to write it with the $100 bill before me. As I trust none of you have a subscription to the New York Ledger, and that Mr. Bonner is as indulgent as he is generous, I should very much like to read a bit of it to you, if you don't mind. You shall be my first audience, with the exception, of course, of my dearly departed and dilapidated pie. One of the trials of womanhood is the fear of being an old maid. To escape this dreadful doom, young girls rush into matrimony with a recklessness which astonishes the beholder, never pausing to remember that the loss of liberty, happiness, and self-respect is poorly repaid by the barren honor of being called Mrs. instead of Miss. Fortunately, this foolish prejudice is fast disappearing, conquered by the success of a certain class belonging to the sisterhood. This class is composed of superior women who, from various causes, remain single and devote themselves to some earnest work, espousing philanthropy, art, literature, music, medicine, or whatever task taste, necessity, or chance suggests, and remaining as faithful to and happy in their choice as married women with their husbands and homes. It has been my good fortune to know several such young country women who from choice or necessity stand alone, seeking to find the happiness which is the right of all. My sisters, don't be afraid of the words old maid, for it is in your power to make this a term of honor and not reproach. It is not necessary to be a sour, spiteful spinster with nothing to do but brew tea, talk scandal, and tend a pocket handkerchief. No, the world is full of work, needing all the hearts and heads and hands we can bring to it. Never was there such a splendid opportunity for women to enjoy their liberty and to prove that they deserve it by using it wisely. If love comes as it should come, accept it in God's name and be worthy of his best blessing. If it never comes, in God's name, reject the shadow of it, for that can never satisfy a hungry heart. Do not be ashamed to own the truth. Do not be daunted by the fear of ridicule and loneliness, nor saddened by the loss of a woman's tenderest ties. Be true to yourselves. Cherish whatever talent you may possess, and in using it faithfully for the good of others, you will most assuredly find happiness for yourself and make of life no failure, but a beautiful success.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Beautiful. And the endorsement of being an independent and useful woman in our world to have a voice, which we find so often with the wonderful women of sustainability that Molly and I would like to present to you in this very brief overview of some of the discoveries we've made as we researched this. Before we dive into today's program, I'd like to take a moment to introduce the organization behind this work, the National Women's History Alliance, and the remarkable woman who helped build it, Molly Murphy McGregor. The NWHA has been a driving force in promoting and preserving women's history for over 4 decades. Founded to ensure that women's contributions are recognized in our schools, communities, and national consciousness, the Alliance has worked tirelessly to uplift stories too often left out of history books. Each year, NWHA develops the official Women's History Month theme used by schools, libraries, institutions, corporations, even fire houses. In addition to this monthly series, we offer toolkits, speakers, partnerships, and year-round programs to help bring women's history into every space every month. Next slide.
Sustainability is often framed as a challenge to be solved by technological or policy, something we must innovate our way towards. But sustainability is really a matter of memory. What we choose to remember, what we have forgotten, shapes how we live on the land, how we value one another, and how far we plan into the future. Long ago, sustainability entered the modern vocabulary. Indigenous and colonial women lived it through planting and preserving, healing and restraint, and intimate care for the land that sustained them. When colonial women encountered indigenous women in the 19th century America, their exchanges unfolded not in councils or treaties, but in kitchens, gardens, birth rooms, and campsites. In these quiet woman-to-woman spaces, one of the earliest and most consequential exchanges of ecological knowledge took place. Across cultural and religious divides, colonial women learned from indigenous women who knew the land intimately and shared their knowledge generously, advancing colonial women's knowledge. Their knowledge now speaks directly to the survival of our planet and recognize that care for the land is inseparable for the care for our lives itself.
Slide 4. The act of sustainability. Now, if everybody wants to say sustainability umpteen times, it's a tongue twister, but you can do it. What we now call sustainability existed long before it had a name, and it was practiced largely by women. It lived in gardens and kitchens, in seed savings and food preservations, in careful water use, healing traditions, in birth and in death, and as an ethic of responsibility. These were not abstract ideals, but daily acts of survival refined across generations. Women understood that life depended on balance, renewal, and care. This knowledge spread woman to woman, mother to child, forming an intergenerational web of sustainable practices that still go on today. As societies industrialized, however, the wisdom was devalued, but it endured. Women's work was labeled domestic rather than ecological, informal rather than essential, but essential it is. Next one.
Contemporary Indigenous women, like Marty Murray, called Mother of Conservatism, championed wilderness protection in Alaska and other states. Her advocacy helped pass the Wilderness Act and expanded Arctic preservation. Dana Austin led several community-based environmental activist organizations and co-convened the first National People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit, which amplified the voices of marginalized communities throughout the 80s and 90s. Robin Kimmler, author of Braiding Sweet Grass, which explores indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teaching of plants. To ensure the continuation of these teachings, she founded the Center for Native People and the Environment.
Rachel Carson. She joined other women's voices to sound the alarm that life and land cannot endlessly give without replenishment, that mass production carries hidden costs and communities fracture when only profit is considered. She started a major revolution by exposing the dangers of DDT to our crops. Rachel Carson wrote that the more clearly we can focus our attention on the wonders and realities of the universe around us, the less taste we shall have for destruction. Next.
Elizabeth Preluger helped ensure the success of the work of these women, as well as the thousands who would follow. When serving as Solicitor General from 2021 to 2025, she emerged as one of the federal government's most defenders of environmental regulation. Facing a skeptical Supreme Court, she was successful in redefining environmental law by persuading the justices that long-standing regulatory framework still fits within the boundaries of congressional intent.
Gosh, that's so important, Molly, isn't it? Hazel Johnson. Countless women, including Hazel Johnson, rose as leaders in environmental and social justice efforts to organize their communities to shut down dangerous hazards, including toxic cancer-causing oil sites. Hazel Johnson is now known as the mother of environmental justice. She exposed toxic pollution in Chicago's South Side during the 1970s. She founded People for Community Recovery as a grassroots, community-based model for other cities to follow. She labeled this area as the toxic donut, a name which gained widespread notoriety and shed light on the connection between industrial pollution and negative health outcomes in other communities. She just used her voice and her data to gather all of the voices that have been affected by the toxic donuts. Next.
Thousands of women continued to protect their communities. They faced enormous odds, but 9-year-old Naia Kobo and her mother, Monique uh, Uradi and several neighbors in South Los Angeles campaigned against noxious fumes coming from the oil drilling and affecting local residents. They testified at city meetings and demanded accountability from powerful oil companies. She learned early on how pollution permitted where political power is essentially scarce, especially in Black and brown communities. Nyala stepped forward and grew into a fearless and articulate advocate for environmental justice. She became a founder of the People for Poza, People with Not Wells, a grassroots campaign, and her leadership led to the successful closure of the Allen Company Energy Oil Drilling Company in the University Park neighborhood. That victory fueled broader efforts to phase out urban drilling across Los Angeles County.
And Molly, she did this while she had already gotten cancer from her work at a
Yep.
young age. Environmental trailblazers. Young women have been and continue to be entrepreneurs. They aren't just redefining, they're changing the world. They often see the business and the intersection of climate solutions. Take Vinasa Umashakar, who created a solar powered cart that replaces charcoal with clean energy after discovering that burning charcoal poses various medical risks to the lung. Her creation when she was only 14 showed girls around the world that it is never too young to become an innovator. And then we have Dr. Sylvia Earle, an American marine biologist, oceanographer, explorer, author, and lecturer, who's also started early. Over time, Dr. Earle became an accomplished woman in her field, spending over 7,000 hours underwater and leading more than 100 ocean expeditions. In 2009, at the age of 74, she founded Mission Blue to protect marine areas. Through Mission Blue and her advocacy, she helped dramatically raise awareness of ocean health, marine biodiversity, and the importance of protecting ecosystems. Frances Moore LePay, who went to my college with me, published Diet for a Small Planet in 1971. The book sold over 3 million copies and was groundbreaking for arguing that world hunger is not caused by a lack of food, but by ineffectual food policy. In addition to information on meat production and its impact on hunger, the book features simple rules for a healthy diet and hundreds of meat-free recipes. Excuse me. It demonstrates the environmental impact of meat production as a contributor to global food scarcity. LePay argued for environmental vegetarianism, practicing a vegetarian lifestyle out of concern over animal-based industries. In a culture dominated by short-term thinking, historical memory restores perspective. Have you had your last hamburger? These women and so many others stand united at the front lines of environmental change, daring to fight forward in a world that disregarded the values women have lived by: sustainability. Lady Bird Johnson's next.
First Lady Bird Johnson paid tribute to the importance of honoring and celebrating the history of these women when she said, "The environment is where we all meet, a mirror of ourselves, and a focusing lens on what we can become." Lady Bird Johnson could have been paying tribute to the 8,000 women of the California Women's Club who between 1900 and 1925 campaigned, raised funds, educated communities, and helped establish California's first state park at Big Mason in 1902, and then two more. These women were not tree huggers, but leaders in environmental justice whose legacy still guidelines us today. Ordinary women witnessing destruction can defend nature, democracy, and the future. Lady Bird Johnson earned the endearing title of First Lady of the Environment for her pivotal work she played in expanding the National Park Service, helping create or enlarge nearly 50 park sites. Her influence also shaped landmark conservation efforts, including wilderness and park preservation. In, influ- Today, her legacy blossoms along America's highways, in cities, and in the majestic Lady Bird Johnson Grove at Redwood National Park. She taught the nation that beauty is not ornamental, it is essential.
Lady Bird's words could also have been to honor Julia Butterfly Hill and the 738 days, nearly 2 full years, that she lived on a small wooden platform 180 feet above the ground in a 1,000-year-old redwood she named Luna, defending her tree's existence. Her vigil, beginning in December of 1997, became one of the most remarkable acts of nonviolent environmental resistance in modern history. She not only saved this magnificent tree, but she also obtained regulations on lumber companies. I remember her, she was my hero. Next side. But then there's St. John's students.
We would like to acknowledge the young women and men who, working with the National Women's History Alliance, selected, honored, and celebrated 30 individuals for March in our 2026 Women's History magazine. The 30 women chosen the 30 women chosen for the magazine represent thousands of others who, in this pivotal moment of history, respond to the vast range of overlapping global challenges: climate change, economic insecurity, healthcare disparities, and threats to our democratic participation. No kidding. Women's history reveals an ethic of connection between people and places, present and future, rights and responsibilities. Knowing women's history is an act of hope and a call to action in our everyday acts of respect, reuse, and responsibility. We carry this legendary forward. We must restore women's voices, reclaim their wisdom, and act upon it in policy, in practice, and in daily life. Let's consider what we can do to sustain future for all of us.
We'd now like to call your attention to the work of these wonderful college students who are our future embedded. Meet Cara Dunlavey. She is an undergraduate student at St. John's University, where she studies environmental sustainability and decision making with a minor in international studies, focusing on systems change, storytelling, and applied impact. She's also the founder of a sustainability focused startup centered on rethinking materials and environmental justice, which has pushed me to navigate everything from product development to stakeholder engagement and policy consideration at a very early stage. We need you, Cara. Tell us all about how the project arrived and the magazine and the heroes were created. Take it away.
Thank you. I'll keep wandering around Tobin. I was able to meet Dan Napolitano, who introduced me to this project, and our wonderful Jay Fiona. And through that, we were able to create a team of women and men to go about this project. So I'm going to share my screen to talk a bit more about how we came to these 30 women that we will be celebrating this month. All right. So to start off, to quickly redefine, like, what is sustainability? A lot of us do, and I believed at one point it's just like we're hugging trees or we're out in the fields or something like that. But in fact, sustainability is more of a system. Essentially, what we're working towards are long-term solutions that don't end in some form of instability, whether that's equality or economics. It's all intertwined with multiple different things. So essentially, it's just making space for everyone while including the earth as well. And so women, as mentioned in the PowerPoint previously, have had a long history involved in sustainability. In fact, they were doing it before the term was even coined. Whether it is back in gardening and the kitchen back when, nowadays we're looking at innovators and leaders. We're looking at women who are going after environmental justice, who are taking those resources and become stewards over them, managing food and water, or driving sustainable solutions. You can find women in pretty much any aspect of sustainability. So what industries are we looking at? Well, to be frank, we're looking at every single industry, from energy to healthcare system to finance. Sustainability is everywhere and all intertwined with each and every one of them. So when I was given this task, Christina, Zach, and I were like, okay, so we're looking at every single industry and all women throughout time, because we wanted to make sure that we were giving the women who didn't receive their flowers initially their time of recognition. So we wanted to make sure that we looked at women who are representing a spectrum of leadership, whether that is impact or influence, from behind the scenes or upfront light. We wanted to make sure we really truly captured the overall essence of what sustainability looks like throughout time. And unfortunately, we only had 30 women to choose from. And so I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorites, and honestly, the women who really introduced my own journey of sustainability. My freshman year of school, and I was trying to figure out my major, she was one of the people I was introduced about, and truly allowed me to, get into sustainability. And so I'm introducing to you Lois Gibbs. She is the founder of the modern environmental justice movement, but more importantly, she's a mother and a community member who challenged the government when corporate denial and environmental harm was happening in her own community. She exposed how low-income communities are disproportionately affected by pollution, and she redefined environmentalism and includes human health, equality, and accountability, because again, sustainability isn't limited just to the environment, but to humans and health as well. So to really understand her story, she was a mother and a community member up in Niagara Falls areas in the Love Canal. Back when they had a bunch of factories that had a lot of chemicals that they used, whether somehow in the process, that they put in these little bins and then they bury them under the ground and sold that land off to the community, where they placed a school above that. And as you can imagine, that comes with a plethora of problems. And so it happened. The chemicals started to leak into the ground. And from there, we were seeing a disaster happen. Well, except here's the thing, we weren't seeing a disaster. Only the community was. They were finding low rates of birth, birth defects, cancer, children who were having chemical burns appearing after playing in the parks. And this is what these people were looking at. But the problem is that I mentioned before, corporate denial. So they weren't getting any help. And a lot of these people had to stay in this area and were forced to live in these chemicals because they didn't have the means to leave. And so Lois, one of the community members, decided to speak up about this. And she was someone who advocated so well for this that it did get the coverage it needed. And through her advocacy, she was able to help create the creation of the US Superfund site program, which is an incredible resource that allows these sites where fault is hard to blame, put onto the government in a way that they can support and rehabilitate communities rather than leave them to suffer with the consequences. From there, she also founded the Center of health for health and environment justice to support frontline communities. And her work has proved sustainability must center people, health, and justice, and not just the environment. And this woman right here, she had no prior education to sustainability or policy. She was a mother with a child in a community, and she loved her people and decided to stand up and fight. And that's all it takes to get involved in sustainability, is a want to improve the situation. And so she did. So, in order to introduce these 30 women, I put them in kind of categories. I don't really like to call them that, to help it better understand what type of women that you guys will be able to see in the magazine as it comes up. So, to start, we have the women who helped define environmentalism and sustainability. The first week out of those 30 women are mostly the mothers of sustainability, people who really were fighting early on, whose voices were mostly pushed aside until now. So these are the women who really got the movement moving. We also highlighted women who centered people, health, and justice. Alongside that, we're looking at research, conservation, ecological understanding, because of course we have environmental sustainability. And the present future of sustainability leadership will be our last week of the month, showing the women who are currently fighting right now for different rights and situations and people that you should be keeping an eye on. And we also wanted to highlight women using storytelling, culture, and really even poetry. So we're looking at different forms of communication, allowing people to truly understand and even come to figure out their own relationship with sustainability and the environment as well. We're looking at shaping sustainability through leadership and policy institutions. So we have even Deb Haaland right here as well. These are women who are a little bit more in the politics of it all, right where they need to be helping us continue on with this mission. So, but thank you so much. That was all.
Well,
Thank you, Cara.
So, given the inspiration you just gave all of us, I'm wondering if there are folks out there that have their own ideas of sustainability, maybe suggestions. I think that they could put them in the box, right, Martha?
Or they can
Or
raise their hand and tell us, isn't that
or
right?
they could raise
Bill?
their hand and tell us. That would be all the better. I know that a friend of mine who can't be here tonight, she said, I never use my car unless I know that I have at least two places to be. So simple things like that that we could start and just do. Another friend of mine who who was raised Catholic and kind of um, was offended by that she couldn't eat meat on Friday. Well, she's not a Catholic anymore, but now she goes with meatless Mondays because she thinks that sounds much better. So, do you all have ideas? Let's see these hands go up of ways that we can sustain things.
Uh,
Martha.
one one of the things that I remember is that when Lady Bird Johnson's edict against billboards went down along the highways. What a difference it made when you didn't have to see Burma Shave signs. You didn't have to see, you know, Joe's Bar and Grill. You could look at the landscape as you went by. And a friend of mine hates to see a neighborhood ruined with graffiti. And so every time she sees graffiti, she calls up the city and tells them to get rid of it. And what happens to that is that the neighborhood looks so much prettier. There's much less crime. There's an old psychological theory about the broken window that if you don't repair your environment, it looks like the slums, and people treat it that way. They throw more garbage on, and I think it's perfectly, you know, to tell somebody when they drop a piece of paper, yeah, drop something, let's pick it up.
Oh, Martha, we have a couple hands up, so I'm going to
Oh,
ask
good.
people to
Can you
start
call on them?
unmuting. First one's Sandra, and then Sharon.
Do we see them?
Unmuting. Okay. Hi. I live in Southern California. It's a desert, pretty much, and I encourage all of my family, which is enormous, um, and also our friends when they are taking showers to put a bucket in their shower and
Ah,
capture the water that they waste that usually goes down the drain while they're trying to get warm water to come on, and then reuse it in their restroom or in their wash machine or to water their plants or to do other things. And that has helped so many people reduce the cost of their water bill, but also is conserving some of the use of our water in our area. And then I plan neighborhood trash pickup because we live right near a creek that goes into a riverbed that feeds into the San Diego River. So we pick up anything that might go in there that might end up in the river that might end up in the ocean. So just little things like that. But I think it's helpful and I think it's important. And I coach, so I get my athletic teams to come along and help so that young people are getting informed as to why it's important to clean up and take care of things. So,
great.
me.
Who else?
Oh, I think you had called on me. This is such a minor, silly little thing, but it actually adds up. And that is, several years ago, I looked through my house and I started putting a recycling can next to every trash can in my house, in every bathroom, under every desk, in every bedroom, so that people could recycle, things like just whatever, even toilet paper rolls, the cardboard rolls and paper that came or envelope, whatever it happened to be. But the point is, it's just a way every week we recycle at least double, if not triple the amount of trash. The recycling outweighs the trash is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, just a minor example.
Well,
Nothing is minor because it becomes a practice.
Well,
And
that's
that's one
true.
of you do something daily and in the olden days it was survival, but nowadays it's like we get in the good habit of being good citizens to Mother Nature.
Yes, that's true. And now my kids all do the same, and
Oh,
they started that
wonderful.
practice in their offices, at businesses, and and in their own home. So anyway, thank you.
and
Thank you.
and we're
Martha,
gonna
we have two
be able to
others.
include all these ideas in the
Right.
follow-up thing because the time is kind of gone and Kara wanted to say one more thing. Except wait, John, did you have something to say first?
Yeah, I was just gonna talk just for a minute. So I'm Kara's dad, so I'm a little bit biased here, but she did a great job, of course. But we raise bees up in New Hampshire, so people think of bee raising and they think of honey, but there's so much more to it because the bees pollinate so many different wildflowers, trees, orchards, gardens. They do a lot of work that is secondary to obviously, raising them for honey production. So Kara helps me out with that quite a bit. So that's something that we live in rural areas. So our neighbors have approached us and said how their gardens and their trees are just more healthy due to the fact that we have bees that just forage through the whole area. So that's a
Mm,
small win for us, but it is helps with
good.
sustainability though.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
And Car, did you have
We
something
have one more
input?
person, Loretta, with her
Oh, I'm
hand
sorry.
up,
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
and then we can bring back.
Loretta?
He's on mute.
Oh.
You already have to unmute it.
We will send you a letter soon about all the different places that you can. There's a great website called Ways You Can do sustainable actions, places that you can just spend a little time taking a walk, even if you're in the city. If we look at the little things that we can get some peace out of it, and we sure need that peace. That's what Louisa May Alcott talked about when she had all these jumbled thoughts. She would just take a minute and take a walk, and what a blessing that is. It saves on your tranquilizers and stuff.
Martha,
Loretta,
Loretta was able to unmute.
Loretta is
Okay,
Okay,
Loretta,
unmuted
yes.
please.
now.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
I'm just so happy that going through the nation, plastic is being shunned, and in our stores,
Yes.
plastic bags. And that is going to have effect in saving our ocean and saving the many marine life, the much marine life, rivers and oceans by not clogging up with plastic bags.
Yep. Use one of our bags that you can get from the National Women's History Alliance. It's even got a zipper. Our tote bags. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Cara.
Are you muted? Okay.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, so I just wanted to come in and quickly mention a little bit, but sustainability for me, as someone who is studying it a little bit more formally, was quite scary, daunting. I didn't know if I liked it really that much because when you're learning about it, it very much feels like this massive problem, like climate change. And I mean, it's a human crisis at the end of the day. So you're looking at this major problem and be like, I'm just a college student, you know? But throughout this project, I was really able to learn about these women and their stories and everything. And sustainability stopped really meaning something scary to me and more hopeful. So I really like to view sustainability as another word for hope, hope for people, the future, for the planet. These women are incredibly strong because they stood, saw a problem, knew what was going on, and instead of running from the reality, they didn't accept it. They went and fixed it. And that is something that I will always remind myself going about my own journey, looking at these women. But I would like to leave you guys with one last quote from Rachel Carson, and that is, nothing exists alone. And I think that is a beautiful way to describe not only the relationship we have with other women throughout history and now, but throughout sustainability and the fact that we do need to lean on communities in order to actually make change. So don't forget that the people right next door to you are here to make change as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thanks everybody, and we'd like to encourage people to join our membership so that we can continue to do this kind of work, and also the our 2026 Women's History Magazine is available for pre-order on our website, and so will our PowerPoint. So look for them, but you'll get information about all of this in a follow-up letter from email from Martha.
Great. Thank you all for coming and spread sustainability, honor the women whose voices we are listening to now, and take this anywhere you want to take it, take it to your library, make your librarian put a little exhibit up for Women's History Month, all that kind of stuff. And let us know if we can be of service to you and use some of our materials on the website. And thank you to Jill for helping us with this webinar. We really appreciate you. and to Deborah and to Cara. And of course to Molly. Bye now. Keep sustainability in your heart. Anybody remaining want to have a comment?
Thanks so much. This was so much fun.
Great.
Thank you.
Fabulous presentation of Louisa May Alcott.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I
Fabulous.
love doing her. I love her very much.
Yeah, it was obvious.
She and Beatrix Potter are incredible women and did so
Oh.
much for the preservation.
Yeah.
Beatrix
Great.
Potter was a one-woman army when it came to preserving the natural world of the North Country. And
Yeah.
Cara, keep kicking butt. Oh, that's a wonderful comment.
Your performance was amazing.
Oh,
Ugh.
thank you. Thank you so
I
much.
got carried away. I was like, wait, I have to present now?
That was kind of crazy. All right, so now I have all of these wonderful nature quotes that I can put in the show.
Oh, you could just tell that she was totally restored by nature, and she totally got some of that independent spirit from nature as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Cara, now we get to relax. No more presentation. We're done.
So
thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.